If you've ever felt like you wanted to quit at any point, this video is for you. Entrepreneurs take more hits than most people, but I feel like too many of us quit when things become difficult because they've been sold the wrong idea about difficulty. I'll never forget a mentor of mine telling me at the start of my journey years ago that being an entrepreneur is one of the most spiritual journeys you'll ever go on. And at the time, I was like, okay. But I realized it was true. It forces you to face yourself in ways that ordinary day-to-day life has no capacity to do. Every shortcoming you have comes under question. And all of these character flaws that you've been avoiding, they literally go under a microscope. And to some extent, you either level up or you sink and tap out of the game. So it's no surprise that loads of you will reach this point in your journey where you think to yourself, I just can't take this anymore. You've got all that responsibility and pressure. You're constantly needing to reinvent yourself and reinvent the way that you do things, especially in an environment like today where things are moving like at lightning speed. So if things feel hard for you and you feel like you're ready to tap out of the game, you're probably going to make the same mistake most entrepreneurs do at a certain point. When things have been really difficult for me on this journey, the reason why I've never fully quit the game is because I realized something quite early on. I knew that when I reached the stage of difficulty, it didn't mean that it was time for me to pull back or to give up. I realized that the difficulty I was experiencing was actually something very, very valuable. It was a skill or information gap asking for my attention. And it wasn't the sign that this business or the path that I'm on isn't for me. If you think about it, in business, difficulties generally arise from not having the answers to a particular problem. And this then creates a vacuum that we label as difficulty, when really, this vacuum that we're labeling difficulty is just a lack of information or skills in a particular area. So you might have a marketing vacuum or a sales vacuum or a hiring vacuum, a leadership vacuum. Our job is to fill the vacuum with the correct information and skills, which then creates the bridge to the other side of difficulty. Sometimes this difficulty is just highlighting the next lesson you need to learn that you've been avoiding for some time. And coincidentally, it appears at the exact moment change is required from you. And as this journey requires immense growth, the difficulty you're feeling is going to be in direct proportion to your willingness to grow by acquiring the skills or information you need to fill the vacuum. So in other words, the more you resist and don't have willingness to grow, the more difficulty you're going to experience. This difficulty you're feeling is literally just built into the game. It often means that you've reached the edge of your current mind and skill set. You've reached a point where you either need to adjust the way you look at things or adjust your skill set. So the thing you're calling difficulty might actually just be ignorance in disguise. You're just moving into new territory. You've reached the edge of your current understanding. Now, there's something else I think you need to hear. If you choose this road of entrepreneurship, you cannot avoid hard things. I think a lot of people subject themselves to unnecessary struggle because they assumed the game would stop being difficult, that they'd figure it all out and things would become straightforward and work in like a straight line. But every stage of entrepreneurship comes with its own challenges. The problems you're experiencing just take on a different shape. And maybe it's time somebody said to you that if you want to go down this road, it might require more effort from you than you anticipated and more willingness to get beyond hard. Now, that's not to say things can't be easy at times. They absolutely can. But I think we need to normalize the awareness that this road might not go the way that we imagined it to. And if you go into it with the mindset of, this might not be easy, but I'm going to give it everything I've got, then you're less likely to tap out when the chips are down. A caveat on this though, there's a mindset some people fall into where they think to themselves things like, I'm just the unlucky one. Everything's just always difficult for me. What you're doing when you do that is you're telling yourself that it's going to be harder for you than it is for others, which is a completely different thing from accepting that this is just challenging in the first place for everybody. So you want to be careful if you're finding yourself rolling into that line of thinking. And there's actually one other thing that helped me massively over the years of getting completely battered in business, right? So whenever things go wrong or they don't go how I'd anticipated them or planned them to, I've got this habit of saying things to myself like, this has got to be good. Where's the gold here? Like this has to be something that's going to benefit me. Like, don't get it twisted. I don't enjoy when things go sideways, right? But I think most people waste the gift of pain. So what do I mean by that? If you're going through something difficult, at least get the lesson from it. Because if you don't, you've paid the price without taking out any value from it. Most times when challenges pop up, and I think I've said this so many times, like, they possess the biggest lessons that will get you to the next level. But if you panic and let it beat you down every time, you'll never extract what you need to learn from it. Every time you do extract the lesson, then you become a little better at what you're doing. So when you do that, you also eventually realize that most things you can actually recover from them. You hear it all the time, like stories of people who literally lost everything, bankrupt, marriage, house, homeless, everything gone. And somehow they bounce back further than they were the first time round. Part of what gets them there is their ability to look for the gold in the manure, to take something useful from the experience they had and use it to propel themselves even higher. So if you've been feeling like quitting recently, maybe this is worth remembering. The difficulty you're feeling doesn't automatically mean that you're failing or that you're on the wrong path. It might just mean you've reached a challenge that your current skill set doesn't know how to solve yet. And if that's true, the answer isn't necessarily to turn back and tap out the game. The answer might just be to become the person capable of moving through it.